A little bit ago, I did a video on Marvel's Phase 4 where I talked about my anticipation for each upcoming project that they announced. But aside from those projects, Marvel has also announced a ton of other films and shows that are either all but confirmed or have been confirmed. And since I had a lot of fun making the last video, I wanted to continue by looking into Phase 5 and seeing what Marvel has up its sleeve. Now, I do want to mention that Marvel has not officially announced a Phase 5. For all we know, Phase 4 may now end with Black Panther 2 because it comes out only 2 months after Doctor Strange 2, which is the end of Phase 4. And for all we know, given the current situation, the release dates may shift again. So I'm just going to go off of what I already know so far. So what I'm going to be doing in this video is talking about the release dates that Marvel has planned after Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, and discuss what projects have been announced to go on these certain dates, as well as make some predictions as to what the other dates could hold. For all of the projects that have been essentially confirmed, I'll give my anticipation ratings as I did in the last video. But towards the end of this video, I'll also be doing a lot more speculation than I did in the last video, and just talking about rumors and things that I like to see, so I'll probably drop the rating then. With all that out of the way, let's get started. To start, let me show you what we're working with here. These are the release dates for feature-length films that Marvel has planned after Doctor Strange 2. They are, as you can see, May 6, 2022, July 8, 2022, October 7, 2022, February 17, 2023, May 5, 2023, July 28, 2023, and November 3, 2023. If you want to pause this video now and let me know in the comments what 7 films you think will fill up these release dates, I'd love to know. Comment down below before we continue so that you can compare with my predictions and we can all discuss down below. Surprisingly, I believe that from these 7 release dates we can actually, with pretty good accuracy, guess what 5 of them are. So I'm going to go down the list and we'll talk about each date one by one. First up, and this is one of the films on the list that has been confirmed, on May 6, 2022, we have Black Panther 2. I love the first Black Panther a lot, and I think that there's a lot of room to go with the second film, especially after seeing what a huge role Wakanda played in Infinity War. I think the rumors surrounding Namor are really interesting, but there are also even rumors of Doctor Doom. Again, with a lot of these projects, it's really hard to rate anticipation because there's just so little that we know about them. What we do know is that Chadwick Boseman will be back, of course, as well as Ryan Coogler, the director. And just based on that alone, I think we're in for something great, seeing as the first film was nominated for Best Picture. So for now, I'll rate my anticipation at a 7.5 out of 10. The second confirmed film on the slate comes on July 8th, 2022, and it was surprising that Marvel quietly announced that this film was coming out, as they reshuffled their entire schedule, and that is Captain Marvel 2. Now again, we don't know much about this film, and I would say that we know even less than Black Panther. I personally, and this is just me personally, this has nothing to do with any agendas or anything, this is just from what I've seen in the films, don't really like the character of Carol Danvers in the MCU. Again, this has nothing to do with any agendas or anything, I want to reiterate that and make that extremely clear. This is purely based on the character, performance, and stories she's been given so far. She reminds me a lot of Thor in his first film, with the really large ego and level of arrogance, especially in Endgame. I mean the fact that she's like, yep, I'm better than all of you and I'm gonna just waltz off and kill Thanos, I don't know. That kind of bothered me a little bit, especially with how new she was. But again, I see a lot of one-to-one parallels with Thor in his early run in the MCU. At first he wasn't that likable, and while he was really powerful, not a lot of people liked him as a character. But then as we saw later, Taika Waititi came in and he completely revamped the entire character, and now everyone loves him. So keeping that in mind, Brie Larson is an Academy Award-winning actress, and the sky's the limit for her and her character. I think it's a matter of putting her in an environment where she's a little more vulnerable, and she's not too overpowered. Also, with Nick Fury presumably running Sword with the Skrulls, the idea of a secret invasion may be lurking around. Anything's possible. So I'll be excited to see what's up with Carol after the events in Endgame. For now though, I'll rate my anticipation at a 5.5 out of 10. Alright, so now that we've gotten those 2 out of the way, we don't know for certain what the other films are going to be, but based on rumors and confirmation by cast and crew, I'm pretty sure I can get the next 3. So, and this is a prediction again, I have no sources or anything, but I think coming out on October 7th, 2022 will be Ant-Man 3. I think this one's all but confirmed. While the MCU has hit a speed bump lately, we've still gotten little pieces here and there from actors like Michael Douglas and Paul Rudd saying that they're ready to start production soon. Now, what really has me excited are the potential rumors. I've heard all sorts of things from Doctor Doom to the Fantastic Four showing up here, and I think that if that's the case, sign me up. Ant-Man and the Wasp with the Fantastic Four? I mean, come on, that's a winner. If this movie was called Ant-Man and the Wasp and the Fantastic Four, I'd be sold. Very quickly. Aside from that, I love the character of Ant-Man. Paul Rudd is great, as always, and Evangeline Lilly had a chance to shine as the Wasp in Ant-Man and the Wasp. The stories tend to be a little generic, yes, but at the end of the day, they're entertaining, and you're not expecting Oscar-caliber films with the Ant-Man franchise, so I'll rate my anticipation at an 8 out of 10. On February 17th, 2023, I'm fairly confident that we'll be seeing the introduction of Blade. He was the only other Phase 5 announcement made at Comic-Con, and the only reason that I put Ant-Man 3 is because it seems like it's a little farther along, like I mentioned before. But I think it's fairly safe to say that this is when we're going to see Blade. First of all, I don't really have that big of a connection with this character from the comics or with the Wesley Snipes version. But I know that the first film was one of the better comic book movies of the 2000s. And come on, getting Mahershala Ali, one of the best actors on the planet right now, I mean, that's enough to make me extremely, extremely excited. Other than that, we know nothing. So I'm going to base my anticipation rating on basically Mahershala Ali alone, and because of that, I'll bump it from a 5, which is what I would consider neutral, to a 6.5 out of 10. Now, coming in at that May 5th, 2023 date, I think we all know what it is, unless something happens with the Suicide Squad and it gets delayed again, it's Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. This movie should have released in place of Black Widow in May 2020, but as we all know, James Gunn was fired and then rehired, but he had already moved on to DC Suicide Squad, so the movie had to be pushed. However, now that he's back, and thank goodness for that, as the Guardians have been such a huge hit for the MCU, I'm really curious to see what's going to happen next. It looks like Thor may not appear in this movie after all, as it looks like the Guardians will appear in Thor 4 instead, but Gunn has a handle on this franchise, and whatever he's got in mind, I'm game. I don't know anything, but I have to assume Adam Warlock's going to show up, right? Gunn did say the Guardians would be completely different after Guardians 3, and I have to imagine that Warlock will be part of that team. And I guess we also have hints that Rocket and his creator, the High Evolutionary, might be at play in this movie as well, and anything to develop Rocket's backstory is welcome, as he really is one of the most interesting members of the Guardians. And of course we can't forget Gamora, who is around somewhere, so that'll be an interesting plot thread as well. Overall, we know Gunn has a handle on this franchise, and I'm just excited to see what he cooks up. So, sign me up. I'll rate this at an 8 out of 10. Now we move into uncertain territory, and here's where I'm just going to be making some complete guesses, because honestly, the next 2 dates could be anything. However, I may have a couple guesses on what they might be, and if so, I think the last 2 films of 2023 are going to be really, really exciting. Again, a complete guess, but coming on July 28th, 2023, I'm thinking we're going to get Fantastic Four. And done right this time. No, not this one. And definitely not this one. I think before we get anything about mutants or anything of that sort, Feige's mission is going to be to do something that has never been done before. And that is to make a critically acclaimed, widely loved Fantastic Four movie. After seeing The Office, can we please make it work with John Krasinski and maybe even Emily Blunt? Because that would just be incredible. Please, please, please. The concept of Fantastic Four may seem a little silly, but come on, Guardians of the Galaxy seems silly too. But it worked out in the end. I'm just so excited to see a version of this team work on the big screen. I mean, yes, maybe it'll flop like any other movie, but I have my doubts. Marvel's proven themselves this far, and I think that we're in for something special. So if this date really is Fantastic Four, then I'm going to rate my anticipation at an 8.5 out of 10. But if they get John Krasinski, you bet my rating's going up. Coming in at the final date, and this is one that I'm least certain about, on November 3rd, 2023, I'm guessing we're getting a SpiderMan project. Now, let me be clear with a couple things. I think that this is a date where we could easily get a completely new character, seeing as it's the farthest out from us today. It could be Namor, Nova, Beta Ray Bill, A-Force, I have no idea. And B, I didn't say Spider-Man 4 intentionally. Hear me out on this one. Spider-Man films have come 2 years apart. Homecoming in 2017, Far From Home in 2019, and Spider-Man 3 in 2021. Originally, I was thinking of slotting the Spider-Man film in the July slot, but then I realized that the Spider-Man 3 had been pushed to November, and there was a November date right here. So it made perfect sense. They could have wanted it to be in the July slot originally, just like Spider-Man 3 used to be, but then maybe both got pushed to November. At any rate, it wouldn't be a change in schedule at all. However, the reason I don't say Spider-Man 4 is this. I think something big is happening with the Sony Spider-Verse and Marvel. While Venom was not a critical success, I think many agreed that at least Tom Hardy's portrayal of the character was a likable one. And now we're getting Venom 2 with Carnage and Morbius, and wouldn't you know it, Spider-Man makes some little cameos in the trailer as well as the bombshell of Michael Keaton's Vulture. Guys, if this is true, and I have absolutely no idea if it is, what if the November date is a live-action Spider-Verse versus Sinister Six kind of movie? Doctor Strange 2 will set up the multiverse and presumably blow the doors wide open. So, what if this is Marvel and Sony's opportunity to cross the 2 worlds together and make something special happen? Anyways, you already know how I feel about Spider-Man. 9.9 out of 10. 9.9 out of 10 if this is true. And I don't know if it is at all. I'm just hoping. Before we get into pure speculation, we do have 3 Disney Plus shows to talk about as well that will presumably be in Phase 5, which are Ms. Marvel, She-Hulk, and Moon Knight. I'm not going to rate my anticipation for them because we just know so absolutely little about these projects, so if I had to, they'd be hovering around a 5, which I mentioned before is basically neutral. Some quick thoughts that I have. First, if we see Bruce Banner and She-Hulk, that would be nice, as Mark Ruffalo's Hulk is always a great addition to any movie we see, as we saw in Ragnarok. Aside from that, maybe we'll get some Red Hulk too. I have no idea, but it sure looks like that the MCU is heading towards the Thunderbolts team. I even considered putting a Thunderbolts movie in the November moving slot, but I think it would be better as a Disney Plus show. As for Ms. Marvel and Moon Knight, we know next to nothing about them other than, yes, they will be based on the comic characters. And I'm all for diversity. I think that the MCU has taken steps, but they will continue to take even more steps with Phase 4 and Phase 5. And I'm all for that. But again, regarding the story or any other details, I don't know anything. So those were all the things that were confirmed, or at least loosely confirmed. But let's go a little crazy here, let's start speculating. What else could we be seeing in the future of the MCU? First of all, Secret Invasion is a storyline that has been tossed around for a long time, and I think it would be a fascinating way to tie things together. I think it's clear that Feige is not done with the Skrulls, as evidenced by Far From Home, and I think a Secret Invasion storyline at some point, like an Avengers-style film, would be really amazing. We also have some rumors floating around about Doctor Doom, Galactus, Kang, or some combination of the three being the next Thanos-level villain. And again, it all comes down to the execution, because we've seen some pretty bad Doctor Dooms and a weird cloud version of Galactus. So we'll have to see about that one. And finally, there's the X-Men. What is Marvel going to do with these mutants? What about Deadpool? Well, first let's talk about Deadpool. I'm sure that, despite Rob Liefeld's recent comments, that Marvel does have a plan for him, whether or not it's in the MCU or somewhere else. I personally believe that they're waiting for Doctor Strange 2 to open up the multiverse, so then they can tap into Deadpool being in an alternate universe or something like that. Because he's not obviously going to fit in well with the family-friendly MCU, and I think an alternate dimension is a good way to tie him in loosely, but not have him completely connected as well. And I also think it allows the Deadpool franchise to borrow characters like Spider-Man from the main MCU timeline if he exists in a parallel dimension. As for the X-Men, well, we have nothing concrete yet. I mean, would I love to see Hugh Jackman return to fight a world-breaker version of Mark Ruffalo's Hulk? I mean, is that even a question? But realistically, we won't get anything like that probably, although a Hulk versus Wolverine fight isn't out of the question. Maybe with She-Hulk instead. But anyways, whatever Marvel decides to do with these characters, I'm sure it'll be great. We won't see any films like Logan again, which is sad because Logan is one of my favorite films of all time, but we will have some unique combinations of characters as the mutants mix with the MCU. And that's exciting. So while we don't necessarily have a Thanos to look forward to anymore, or at least not yet, I think it's pretty clear from these past two videos that the MCU future is bright. Comment down below with your most anticipated Phase 5 project. Again, let me know what films you think will appear in Phase 5. Make sure to subscribe and hit the bell for notifications, as well as give this video a like to support the channel. Content is coming your way every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, so stay tuned for that. If you want some more of my content, be sure to click the videos on the screen right now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.